Hi. Now we are going to talk about the class attribute. As we have already seen that when we create a class, right, Python automatically creates it builds some properties, it adds some behavior to the class object, like the name property. Like over here, when we create a person class, we can check the name of the class, right? So this name property has not been added, right? So we have not created this name property, but has been created by the class itself, right? Again, now we can also add our own class attribute very easily. Like over here, we have this class called program. Now we are adding this two attribute, language and the version, and simultaneously we are giving the value for the both attribute. Right? Let's see that. Now when we check the program.name, here the name has not been added by us, but it has been added by Python itself. When we check the name, we'll get the program, but we can also get the same both language and the version attribute with the dot notation. When we say program.language will get the value, program.version will get the 3.6, right? Now we can also change the value, right? Like this, right? So it's also kind of easy to change the attribute value with the dot notation. So here we're saying program dot version equal to 3.7, 3.7. This means that we have changed the value. We can check the value itself. We have this 3.7. But this way, by accessing the attribute and by changing the attribute value is possible, but we also have the two function get attr and set attr, which help you to read and the write these attribute. So here we are using the get attr. We are saying get attr, we are giving the name of the class program, and then we are saying version. This will help. So what this will give you, this will give you the name of the versions, or like the value of the version which is available in the program class, right? We can also change the version. To change it, we can use the set attr. So first the class name, attribute name, and the value name, right? We can check that. After that, we can, now when we set this with the help of set attr, we can, when we access through the dot notation or the get attr, the both will be the same output. Now, Python is a dynamic language. We know that, and we can create attribute at a runtime. So like that means after the class creations, like over here, we have created a class and we have the two attribute, right? But we can also create attribute with the dot notation, right? So here we're saying program.x and the value we are passing as 100. So this means that we have created the x attribute and the value is 100, right? We can check with the dot notation, and we can also check with the get attr functions. Here we have this 100, right? Now we could also just use this set attr function, like over here when we say set attr program y and 200. This means that here we are using the class name as program, the value we are setting as y. So this is the attribute name we are setting as y, and the value we are setting as 200. So right now when we access the y value with the help of dot notation and the get attr, we'll get the same value, right? Now, so where all this data has been stored, because we are creating these two we have created these two attribute x and the y after the class has been after the class has been created, right? So usually, basically, when we like all this data is stored in a dictionary that is attached to the class object, right? So here when we say program.dict, again we have also not defined the dict, but when we call this program.dict, we'll see all the attributes. So here we have this language and the version, we have this x and the y, right? All this attribute we can see over here, right? Again, here as an output, remember that we are not getting the exact dictionary as an output for the dict attribute. We are getting a mapping proxy. Basically, this is a read-only type of dictionary that will kind of stop you by changing the dictionary value, right? So if you want to change it or if you want to access it, so to change it, we can use the set attribute function or the dot notation, but we cannot change this dictionary directly, and that's the reason we are getting this mapping proxy object, right? Again, What if we change the value of the attribute? Here we're changing the value of X attribute using set attribute, and when we check with the dict, now we can see that the attribute value has been changed. Now we have discussed about the creating and the deleting of the attribute. Now we know how to create the attribute and how to mutate the class attribute, right? But can we delete the attribute? Of course, you can delete the attribute by using del keyword and del attribute or the del attr function. Now to delete any attribute, we can simply call del program.x. This will delete that attribute. When we check the dict, we can see that x has been removed. You can also use del attr. Here we are passing the class name, and then we are giving the y as a value. So when we say del attr program y, this will delete the y attribute. Now again, we can access the dictionary value. We can see that all the value which is available. We can see all these things, right? Now this mapping proxy is a hashable object, right? So again, we can also, because this is just like a dictionary, right? We can also access in the form of dictionary. We can say that program.dict, and then this will return you this dictionary, and now we can use a bracket notation to access the value of the dictionary. Here we are accessing the value of language, which is Python, right? We are also accessing, now we are also seeing the dict.item. What this will do, this will give you the, like, this will give you the key and the value of the dictionary, and now we are converting to a list, right? This is the value we are getting, right? Now here, so one caution is not every attribute that class is like, not every attribute is there in the dictionary which class have. Like, we know that this class also has the name attribute. We know about the name attribute, but it is not available in the default dict function, right? It is not available over here. So when we do so, program.name, we can see, we can access the name attribute, but this name is not available over here, right? We can check that whether this name is available in the dict. No, it is not. We are getting false, right? So now we know a basics of how to access, set, and alter the class attribute, right? Thank you very much.